What happens next will go down as one of the most controversial attacks in Civil War history. A desperate gamble, a bloody sacrifice, and a decision that still divides historians to this day. This isn't just history. This is a warning about the cost of blind obedience. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear changes everything. You thought you knew about Gettysburg, May. Step into the core of one of America's most defining moments as we uncover the grim events of the Battle of Gettysburg. Famous for its ferocious clashes and devastating casualties, the battle turned places like Devil's Den and Little Round Top into enduring symbols of courage and sacrifice. Yet amid the turmoil, one figure rises above the rest: General John Bell Hood. In a heartfelt letter to General James Longstreet written 10 years after the war, Hood looks back on the harsh truths of battle, the burdens of command, and the lingering ghosts that outlast the silence of the guns. Join us as we explore Hood's first-hand narrative, peeling back the layers of his ordeal and its deep influence on the Civil War's trajectory. This isn't just a tale of combat. It's an intimate glimpse into the soul of a soldier wrestling with the wounds of war and the mark he left behind. Before we continue, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to help grow our community. When we reflect on the Battle of Gettysburg, names like Pickett, Hancock, Meade, McLaws, and Longstreet come to mind. But today, we focus on General John Bell Hood. His assault on Little Round Top remains one of the most pivotal actions of this historic battle. Hearing his own words about what unfolded on that decisive day, July 2, 1863, is essential. Years later, in 1875, General James Longstreet, who had grown isolated from many former Confederates due to his shifting political loyalties, reached out to Hood, seeking his perspective on Gettysburg. I'd like to share Hood's reply to Longstreet, where he vividly recounts his experiences during the battle. I arrived with my staff at the heights of Gettysburg shortly after sunrise on the morning of July 2nd. As I mentioned earlier, my division began filing into an open field nearby. Here, the men were allowed to stack their arms and rest while awaiting further orders. In the early hours of that same morning, we had been engaged alongside Generals Lee and A.P. Hill, carefully observing the Federal troop placements. General Lee, clad in his full uniform with his coat fastened to the throat and his saber belt snug around his waist, paced beneath the shade of the surrounding trees. His field glasses hung at his side, and he paused now and then to study the enemy's lines. He seemed hopeful, yet at times lost in thought, weighing the trials ahead. Nearby, Colonel Fremantle of England sat perched in the crook of a tree, endlessly scanning the Union's fortified positions through his binoculars. It was evident that General Lee was insistent on us launching an attack that morning. He told me plainly, "The enemy is here, and if we do not strike him down, he will strike us down." Yet I thought it wiser to delay until Pickett's division, still unsettled, arrived before we acted. Later, as we sat together beneath the sturdy trunk of a tree, you remarked to me, "The general appears rather restless today. He urges me to attack, but I refuse to do so without Pickett." I've always been reluctant to commit to battle unprepared, quipping, "I never like to march into a fight with one boot missing." The morning dragged on, thick with tension, until afternoon arrived. By 3 o'clock, we had made our choice. Waiting for Pickett was no longer an option. We resolved to pivot toward our far right and ready an assault along the Emmitsburg Road. McLaws advanced, and I trailed closely with my division. Soon after, orders came to hasten my troops and overtake McLaws. To clear the way, I dispatched an advance party to dismantle fences and prepare our path. The directive was unmistakable. I was to align my division across the Emmitsburg Road, form a battle line, and ready the assault. But before reaching the road, I sent forward a band of trusted Texas scouts. Their task was to locate the enemy's far left flank. They returned swiftly, reporting that the enemy's flank anchored on Round Top Mountain. The ground, they said, was open, allowing us to maneuver through wooded pastures around Round Top and possibly strike the enemy's side and rear. They also noted the Federal wagon trains clustered tightly behind their lines, leaving them exposed to an attack from that angle. Upon reaching the Emmitsburg Road, I acted without delay. I positioned 1 or 2 artillery batteries and opened fire, eager to engage the enemy and shift the battle's tide. The enemy's artillery promptly returned fire, revealing their positions. Their left flank lay near Round Top, their lines bending into a concave shape as we advanced along the road. A substantial force stood ahead of their main line, stationed between the Emmitsburg Road and Round Top Mountain. These troops were arrayed in battle formation on a rise near a peach orchard. I understood then that to obey orders and attack along the Emmitsburg Road, I would first have to dislodge this forward battle line. Additionally, at the base and along the slope of the mountain, we faced massive boulders strewn haphazardly, forming narrow gaps that could break our formations and scatter the men as they climbed the steep, rocky terrain. I also realized my division would be exposed to relentless fire from the enemy's main line, positioned along the high ground's crest, with Round Top anchoring their far left. Because of the concave curve of their defenses, we would face devastating fire, not just from the front, but from the side and rear as well. I judged it nearly impossible to scramble over those boulders up such a rugged slope under that murderous crossfire, and still hope to dislodge the enemy. Even if we succeeded, I knew the cost would be dreadful, paid in the blood of some of the bravest soldiers ever to march into battle. The reconnaissance by my Texas scouts and my own observations of the Federal lines were completed in astonishingly little time. Far quicker, indeed, than it has taken me to recount it now, though the memory remains as sharp as if the fight had happened yesterday. Having gathered these critical insights shortly after reaching the Emmitsburg Road, I felt compelled to report to you at once that attacking straight up the road, as ordered, seemed unwise. Instead, I urged you to let me swing around Round Top and strike the enemy's flank and rear. Accordingly, I sent a staff officer to request permission for this maneuver, laying out my reasoning in full. Your reply came without delay. General Lee's orders are to attack up the Emmitsburg Road. I dispatched another officer, stressing once more that a frontal assault promised little success and repeating my plea to turn Round Top. Again, your response was firm. General Lee's orders are to attack up the Emmitsburg Road. Meanwhile, I continued shelling the enemy with artillery, growing ever more certain that the Federal line stretched all the way to Round Top. I saw little chance of meaningful success if we attacked as directed. In truth, the enemy's position struck me as so naturally formidable, I might even say unassailable, that they could repel us simply by hurling rocks down the mountainside as we advanced, even without their flanking fire. For the third time, I sent a staff officer, this time my adjutant general, Colonel Harry Sellers, a man of both courage and keen judgment, to explain the situation in full and suggest you come see it yourself. Colonel Sellers returned with the same answer. General Lee's orders are to attack up the Emmitsburg Road. Almost immediately afterward, Colonel Fairfax of your staff arrived, reiterating those very orders. And so, after lodging this urgent protest, the first and only of my military career, against proceeding with the attack at Gettysburg as planned, I gave the command. My line advanced, and the assault began. As my troops advanced, you came to me in person. In our brief exchange, I again voiced my misgivings and my disappointment at being denied the chance to flank Round Top. Your response was firm. We had no choice but to follow General Lee's orders. Pressing onward under relentless fire, my line reached the peach orchard. Within 20 minutes, I suffered a grievous wound to my arm and was borne from the field, ending my role in that pivotal battle. As they carried me away on a stretcher, my heart grew heavy with anguish for the fate of my brave men, who formed one of the finest divisions in that storied army. I remain convinced that had I been permitted to maneuver around Round Top, we would have taken that position and driven the enemy from the field. John Bell Hood stands among the most compelling generals of the Civil War, a complex historical figure whose personal story I find endlessly fascinating. While I hope to explore his life in greater depth through future videos, his assault at Gettysburg remains legendary to this day. The Devil's Den and Little Round Top have become iconic landmarks of the battle, synonymous with some of the war's most savage fighting. These clashes rank among the bloodiest of the entire conflict, marked by relentless combat and staggering casualties. Yet what makes these events particularly gripping is Hood's own first-hand account. We must remember, however, that Hood penned this letter a full decade after the war's end. This distance in time inevitably raises questions. Can we trust every detail? Did memory reshape events over the years? Human recollection is imperfect, and without contemporary notes, some uncertainties remain. Still, his letter to General Longstreet offers an invaluable window into the mind of a Confederate commander wrestling with battlefield chaos and command decisions. His vivid prose and raw emotion transport us to that brutal day, a testament to both the horrors of war and the burdens of leadership. Tragically, Hood died just 4 years after writing this poignant reflection, passing away in New Orleans in 1879. His life and military career continue to captivate historians and Civil War scholars alike. As we examine his legacy further, I'm eager to delve into Hood's personal struggles and the contradictions that defined him. His actions at Gettysburg and their far-reaching consequences still echo through Civil War studies, reminding us how individual decisions shaped the course of history. I hope Hood's account has given you new insight into Gettysburg's chaos and the impossible choices faced by those who fought there. Stay tuned for more personal narratives from history's defining battles, and thank you for joining me today. Until next time.